Hey, everybody. Today's just not a great day. It's a fabulous day. My name is Stu Turley and President and CEO of the Sandstone Group. We got a fantastic discussion coming around the corner here with Gareth Evans, and he is with VECKTA. I'll tell you what, there is some big issues going on in the energy market, and I think Gareth's got some answers. Welcome to the podcast, Gareth.
Yeah, thanks, Stu. We've definitely got some answers, but there's definitely lots of issues, lots of opportunities. So exciting times.
Boy, I'll tell you what, I was taking a look at VECKTA and a little bit of what you guys going on, and a co-founder. What's prompted you from a CEO level? Tell us a little bit about what you thought about when you started VECKTA.
Yeah, I actually spent most of my career with one of the largest energy engineering firms in the world, Worley Parsons, primarily coming out of oil and gas and mining, and got to get a lot of exposure to the heavy resource sectors. And in the latter part of my career there, I was leading a global power consulting business, and we were seeing the trend of more and more business owners, I suppose, really getting frustrated with their cost of energy going up. The chances of there being an outage also going up, as well as there being corporate or board level decisions made to reduce emissions. And so then you were left with leaders within these businesses trying to figure out this trifecta problem statement. How do I reduce my cost? How do I increase my security? How do I reduce my emissions? And it's not a simple fix, but there are definitely solutions out there. And so we wanted to be able to bring a more simplified, accelerated approach for businesses to be able to consider, where am I today? What are my objectives, and how do I get there?
I'll tell you what, when you sit back and take a look, your website, VECKTA.com, that's VECKTA.com. I love the comment when you sit here and kind of go, energy transition going on. You've got wind, you've got solar, nuclear, natural gas, coal, and the grid's kind of like the glue. The power of the grid in the last century is failing you. Okay, I think I got an idea where we're going with this. So,
yeah,
what kind of products do you guys do, and what are your solutions in order to get to this point?
Yep. So we are firm believers that the hardware technologies, the solar, the wind, the gas turbines, they all are fantastic. They're in the market. They're amazing. There's also constructors who know how to deploy these assets. And there's a huge amount of capital that wants to get access to these type of projects. The challenge is all of those suppliers are trying to sell their widget or service to business leaders. And business leaders don't know what's right for them, what to ask for, how to quantify, what do I need, when do I need it, how do I get the best solution. And so we are the technology platform that brings all that together. So we like to think of ourselves like the Google Maps of the energy transition. You know, where are you today? Where do you need to get to? What are the different routes to get there? Do you need solar? Do you need storage? Do you need a gas turbine? How much energy are you using? How much are you spending? What's your emission profile? And then which different options can get you there? And it can either, we specialize in what's called an on-site energy system or a microgrid. And this is a business generating and storing energy right where it needs it. And that can either supplement the grid or be in replacement of grid power. And to your point before, I think the grid is aging. It's, in some cases, almost 100 years old now. But most of our infrastructure is at minimum 30, 40, 50 years old. And it's harder to maintain. It's becoming more expensive. It's becoming more vulnerable. And I think that the future is a more distributed energy system versus this kind of centralized, vulnerable, aging system that we've relied on.
Oh, yeah. And when you talk about the ESG and replacing coal to go to either renewables, natural gas, or nuclear, getting funding is like the infrastructure bill, and the other ones, the Inflation Reduction Act, are missing big chunks to the grid upgrade.
I think there's huge amounts of money coming through those bills. It was amazing. It's going to really accelerate the whole industry. I think in the short term, it's kind of stalled the industry a bit as everyone's waiting for more guidance, more details. But I think the biggest challenge for the grid is its capacity to take on more power. And so I think what we're seeing a lot in the news right now is the interconnection backups. And that's where on-site becomes really powerful, because you don't have to wait years and years and years to develop these projects, get them permitted, get them interconnected. It's your property, it's your business asset. If you want to put solar on the roof and a battery in the warehouse, and you want to have a gas turbine for backup, like, we can support you to configure that and design it and understand the business case around it, and then really seamlessly go to market and make your ask of the supply, the best suppliers, compare them, contrast them, and then award the work to the one that you want to work with. So that's kind of the future. There's certainly still a need to interconnect if you want to be tied into the grid, but it's, these are smaller projects, so the time frame's far smaller.
Well, when we sit back and talk about the supply chain and the regulations, how there are millions and millions of dollars, just because you may have the money for tax credits or anything else, you may not get your projects even done. So how do you, when you're doing your projects and stuff, how do you plan for that? Because that's just something that is just tough. I mean, you can't get back and go, I'm going to do it this week. There's some road, there's some time. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I think first of all, you're spot on. I think I think this is an learning opportunity for business leaders, particularly those who have made, emission reduction commitments by a lot of companies, 2026, 2030. If you haven't started on your 2026 targets now, then you're really in trouble, especially if you've got more than one site, because these projects do take 6 months, a year, multiple years, depending on where you're located and what the opportunity is. But yeah, we've kind of got insights into all the different incentives and regulatory programs. And so we certainly build that into our configuration platform, and we support customers to look at their entire portfolio. Where will I get the greatest return on investment across all my different sites? Where should I prioritize my time and effort? So we help support them to make informed decisions around, I'm not going to work in this state, in this location, where I know that it's going to take me years, or the project might fall over, or it just doesn't pencil from an economic standpoint. Like, let's kill those bad projects quickly. Let's not waste time on them. Let's prioritize the good locations, the ones that are regulatory favorable, costs are a pain point, outages are high. You can really do a lot of prioritization work there. And then in terms of access to capital, companies don't have to spend a penny. There are businesses out there that want to finance these systems. They want to build them, own them, operate them, and just sell you energy back. So first of all, companies don't have to spend a penny. If they do have a tax burden that they want to now offset, the likes of the IRA, you can now get between 30 and 60% tax incentives. So you can essentially half the price of your project. And when these are going to now last you 20, 30 years, we're seeing payback periods of 1 to 3 years once you start applying some of these incentives, and they pay for themselves very quickly.
Well, I'm seeing around the world. I've had the pleasure of interviewing CEOs from Copenhagen Atomics, Fry Battery out of Norway, and there is a huge chunk of global for folks looking to invest in the infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act. When you look at the money that's being being funded in the United States, there's a big foreign investment coming in. Yeah.
There's a lot of money being printed as well. Maybe that's part of our problem. But there's a huge amount of money on the sidelines. I think people are looking for long-term assets. And the great thing about an energy asset is, if you're building it for a business that's going to be, even if that business isn't around in 10, 20 years, someone's going to be using that property, and the energy asset is going to be needed. And I think the problems are only going to get worse. The grid is not going to get any cheaper. Like utility power is not going to get cheaper. It's not going to get any more reliable. And so, it's a very smart investment to put your money into an energy asset that then is going to generate you a monthly return for the next 20, 30 years. It's good business.
I'll tell you, I think microgrids and modular nuclear reactors are critical. And you can get money a lot easier for smaller projects. And a microgrid, I like some redundancy. I like being able to. I was working with a solar group, and they got all the permits, they got everything, but they can't connect it to the grid. And it's like, hey guys, it was somebody did not check that box off. Are you seeing those kind of projects out there? Or am I the only one that saw that one?
Well, I think it's probably one of the biggest misconceptions. A lot of businesses gone out and, the easy button was, let's just throw a few solar panels on the roof and, feel like we're doing something. But when the power goes off, your solar panels also have to be switched off. They have to be disconnected from the grid because people fixing the grid can't be exposed to panels trying to push energy into the system. And so the only way you can have resilience is by then having a storage asset or a turbine of some sort, or a small modular reactor in the future. And so, yes, you have to be able to combine multiple technologies. And when done right, you can actually get resilience for hours, days, weeks in some cases, and that's amazing. We saw in Texas, the cold snap a few years ago, that created a huge amount of pain. I think for the likes of Samsung, they were indicating it was millions and millions of dollars related in power outages when their plant went down because oil and gas sector, it's not like you can flick the assets back on when the power goes off. These are days, weeks, kind of ramping them back up. And so the cost of that one outage would have paid for a system 10 times over. And so that's kind of where we need business leaders to get into that mindset of it may be a short-term investment, but first of all, it locks in your costs. So you have no operational escalations to be factoring in. And with the utilities, we're now seeing here in California, like 40% escalation for businesses in some cases last year. I don't know how you plan your business around that. So that's kind of the first win. And then secondly, if you can avoid an outage, that pays for itself. But people don't typically think about what would be the cost to my business of the power going off for a few hours or a few days.
Right. And so the return on investment, when we sit back and take a look at power, Occidental Petroleum last year was the number one oil and gas that was firm in the U.S. that was they were the number one on the Dow S&P. And so when you sit back and take a look, that's a heck of an investment. So energy, Gareth, is people are looking at energy to invest and get out of the stock market.
Yeah. And I think particularly for the existing energy companies, it's a really nice way to go on the journey, if they're not quite ready to get into the electron component outside of the oil or the gas. First of all, they can actually deploy these systems at their sites and being able to build their brand and their marketing capability by saying they're developing these assets in a more sustainable way. But then by doing that, they can learn about it. And these are the biggest energy companies in the world. And at some point, they're going to see that they have to get involved in smaller, higher volume, distributed energy projects to be relevant in the long term.
What do you see coming around the corner for consumers? Because like you said, when ERCOT got, there's so many memes that went around during that time. You open it up and then all of a sudden here's a $1,000 energy bill. And I mean, it was like overnight. I mean, it was like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
What do you see coming around? Because the energy crisis globally, how do you think VECKTA can impact that? But what do you think the education process can be? Because it's not only educating. So I got about 16 questions in there, and I'm sorry, I just enjoyed.
No, it's all good. Well,
so
I think first of all, it's super complicated. No one wants to think about kilowatts, kilowatt hours. As consumers, as business leaders, we want to think about how much energy do I use? in
Right.
real simple, understandable terms. How much does it cost me? And if I can do it in a greener way, that would be awesome. And so the education needs to be around how do we just simplify the message, make it really accessible. And in some cases, I think in the future, it'll be completely gamifying it. I think the vision of the future is we'll all be generating and storing energy at our personal residences, at our businesses.
Right.
There won't be massive transmission lines running across the country. We'll have very strong distribution grids, which will allow us to be able to transact energy between properties. So maybe you've got the capability to store more energy than you need, but your neighbor can't afford to do that. And so you can set up a simple contract on an app, sell the energy back and forward. Maybe you want to get free beer from your local microbrewery, and they're willing to give you a free crate for every so many kilowatts of solar power that you share back to them. And so I think that's the future, is really turning it into a very prosumer environment, everyone having energy security, energy cost stability, but then the ability to really simply transact and trade either the energy or the credits. And the ability for us to, I think the appliances of the future, everything's been electrified, but we need to be able to control the demand and have the flexibility. So maybe we'll be able to set up in our really simple to use apps, you can turn off my TV, my air conditioning unit when I need to save power, and it all starts becoming automated. So that's the future, and these more distributed grids are more resilient, they're more secure, they can kind of turn off and on to protect themselves or each other. With transmission infrastructure, one tree falling on a transmission line can knock out power to thousands of people. If it falls on a distribution line, if we've all got our own energy system, it doesn't matter.
Oh no, I've got several places. In this one right here, I've got a backup generator that runs on either natural gas or it'll run all the buildings here. But the problem is I've been through 2 tornadoes here. And so, people that don't think ahead on those things get hit in the back of the head. And I had to go pull my neighbors out. I love your forward thinking, Gareth, because I don't think everybody's thinking that way. But let me throw this squirrel at you. And that is that in California, I believe they had a bill that just came out. They were proposing that people power or dump in their cars into the grid. But that seems a little bit of a major problem, because last summer they were telling everybody you can't charge your cars during a normal time when you were going to. So I love where you're at. Boy, we got a long way to go for technology. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, huge way to go. I think this is the challenge, is the infrastructure just doesn't exist. One, for if suddenly all of us wanted electric vehicles, an electric vehicle, they say, is the equivalent of bringing another household's worth of energy onto the grid. So first of all, we just don't have the capacity to be able to do that. Secondly, the infrastructure just can't handle that extra load. And so that is the problem, is how do we bring more of this infrastructure online? How do we ensure it's reliable? How do we ensure that you and I can charge when we want, put energy back when we don't want, and that the grid can handle and balance that? I think that is the challenge. And I think that's where the more we can actually think about, hang on a minute, why are we wasting all this energy by moving it around? Why don't we just use it right where we need it? And if I do have a bit of excess, let's store it and let's save it for the rainy day when I actually need it. So I think that needs to be the bigger thinking, is less transmission scale, less worrying about how we upgrade infrastructure across the whole country. Let's think about how we sort of localize it more and have it more distributed.
Boy, you nailed Texas. You got it right, because how many billions was it for them to bring all of the wind farms and solar? Because Texas has 2 nuclear reactors, 4 reactors, 2 locations. They have all the wind and solar. They're leading the charge on that. But it was, I think, $8 billion to bring the transmission line, whatever the number was. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And then, so I love your idea about bringing that cost down. They didn't budget for that in a lot of their thoughts. So I just really like the way you're thinking.
Yeah, no, it's an exciting time and an exciting future. And as you know, technology is improving all the time. And this isn't just like, let's push renewables. These are hybrid energy solutions. And for some businesses, it won't be renewable. It will be a gas turbine. It will be a diesel genset. You know, we're agnostic. We want it to be more sustainable, but it's critical that it also drives more profitability. And I think that's the headspace people need to get into, is sustainability cannot come at the cost of profitability. They should go, today they go hand in hand when done right. And so let's support the buyers of energy, the consumers, the business leaders, how to think through that and quantify it and really see the business case for what it is.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I think VECKTA is as one of the energy technology. I mean, energy technology, energy tech is going to be the only way we're going to get there. And you guys, I think, are leading into that area of education, discussions. You're out doing great podcast interviews, you know, on the Energy News Beat. I'm just throwing that out there. But you and I were chit-chatting. You've enjoyed going out and educating people. Yeah,
it's super important. I think right now, as people thinking about this, we don't know what's possible, where to begin, who to turn to. And so the enabling technology piece, I think, is the bit everyone's overlooking. The industry is really pushing hard into what's the next battery, what's the next solar panel, how do we eke out a bit more efficiency? And that's all amazing. But today, actually, I think the missing link is, what are the enabling technologies that allow people to actually figure out what I should buy and at what price point and how long is it going to take me, and all these questions that I think create the indecision in the market. So we're not going to get people to act if we can't get them to understand and buy into the opportunity. So yeah, I think that's why we do what we do. And I think that's what's exciting about this industry, is it's moving very quickly. And yeah, education's huge. How do we help people understand that there's win-win scenarios here? There's actually no downside to doing it.
Well, what do you see as the biggest challenge for VECKTA to do what you're doing? Have fun. I mean, if you don't like what you're doing, get out, right?
Yeah.
And you've got your employees. As a CEO, you've got to have some great employees.
Yeah.
What is the next step to notch VECKTA up into the next level? What are your thoughts as a CEO to get to that next level? Yeah,
team's incredible. And we're a team that's highly built on culture and values. I think that's really important. So we make sure that we really operate by our value system all the time. And you'll probably like them: challenge limits, adapt purposefully, empower co-creation. And so that's internally and for the market. And yes, the product is there. You know, we've built an amazing, almost Expedia-like marketplace for customers to be able to, you know, what was your world like trying to book a holiday prior to Expedia? It was a painful process, and you didn't want to be a travel agent expert, or you didn't want to pay someone a fortune to do it. And so now you can get your packaged holidays really simple, understandable, with a few inputs. And that's what we're building for the energy industry. To get to the next level, it's more customers thinking about this and more opportunities in the top of the funnel. You know, we're here to kill those bad projects, help customers prioritize the good ones, and then take them to market in a really streamlined way. Today, up to 70% of energy project costs are in what they call soft costs: the consulting, the engineering, the procurement, contract, sales, marketing. So our job is to compress all that out of the system through technology, make more informed, automated decisions. So yeah, the biggest challenge is, how do we get the brand exposure on a global scale? And I want us to be kind of the Amazon of the energy industry. Everyone should think about us as every business should be thinking about VECKTA.
I like that. You know, what a great goal. But when you sit back and take a look, I love your personality as a CEO and everything else, because I'd be dead meat without my employees. And we were just talking, like that little bit we have here. Your goal is to be the next Amazon. Who's your target customer? Who's really the one that you're trying to get to?
Yep. The technology works for any business in any sector. Our priority markets today are customers who are in the resource industry, so mining, oil and gas, because they are critical to the energy transition. So let's help them be more efficient, more sustainable, more effective. Manufacturing and the food and beverage sectors. So it's sectors who either have massive energy needs, a sustainability target because they're part of a supply chain that is now demanding it, or to get access to capital for their business, they need to demonstrate that they're delivering on their commitments. Businesses that have lean margins or always want to be managing their costs, because energy is actually a component, an input to their business that they can control. A lot of businesses can't control a lot of the inputs that come into their business through the supply chain. They're kind of at the mercy of that. And then lastly, companies that do have a problem with power outages. So, if you're a food and beverage manufacturer, you've got perishable goods. If you're a grocery store, if you're cold chain logistics, if you're an oil and gas refinery, all those industries, when the power goes off, bad things happen and you lose product and oil a lot of money. So, we look for customers who have those pain points. And our perfect kind of customer profile is CEO, CFO, sustainability leader, energy manager, those type of decision makers.
Fantastic. I'll tell you, you sit back and you got your goals, you got your track record. This is pretty exciting stuff coming around the corner. What is next? I got two questions for you. What's next in Q4 for you for VECKTA, Q3, Q4?
Yep.
And then I got another follow-up question after that.
Yep. Priority for us today is enterprise customers with large portfolios of sites. So really supporting them to, I'd say where the industry is at is we're very much still in the assessing and planning stages. A lot of companies are kind of going on the journey. They're maybe not quite ready to build. Some are, and I'd consider them to be the kind of early adopters. And so we're helping those customers already take some projects to market. But what we really want to help is the customers who are on the verge, they're thinking about it, they're not really sure what to do. So those big enterprise customers who have goals to hit, it's all about helping them get their hundreds, if not thousands of sites into the platform, understand what's possible, prioritize where they should invest their time and effort. So that's our big push right now, is getting a bunch more enterprise style customers in. And that'll then lead to marketplace adoption, which is great for the whole industry because suppliers want access to good projects. We can help originate the good projects, help them overcome the customer indecision. And so then it removes the cost for the whole industry, and then the systems get cheaper. So then more people want them. So that's kind of the vision, is let's help all boats rise.
Well, I can tell that you and I are going to have another interview on a podcast, because I've got about 9,000 questions for you. But Gareth, how can people reach you?
Yeah, so VECKTA, I think you mentioned it before, is the business name. So www.veckta.com is VECKTA. And then me personally, LinkedIn is a great place to hang out, or Twitter. But Gareth Evans, if you look up Gareth Evans VECKTA, you should find me. I love anything adventurous. I love anything energy. So reach out, hang out. That'd be awesome.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for stopping by the podcast. And I mean, I had an absolute blast, but I got to have you back, because we got about 9,000 more. So
no, I look forward to it. It's been a pleasure. You're a fun dude to hang out with, and I look forward to learning more about what you do, and bringing some success stories back and telling you about how the energy industry is transitioning to a more profitable and sustainable future.
I love that. And especially educating folks.
Yes.
So thank you. We'll see you next time.
Appreciate it, Stu.